Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today we're going to be breaking down patch 9.0, probably the biggest content update we've had in a couple of months. It obviously brought with it new siege mode, and I'm not really going to be covering all that much in terms of siege mode in this update because, to be honest, what you know publicly and in the game is pretty much what they have explained. And I feel like if I actually dove into siege mode in this video, we'd be here for about an hour. And you don't really come here to know what you already know. You come to this video to learn about things that you don't know that is happening, and also for me to give context on the patch notes that they post on their forum. So that is what we're going to be doing in this video. It's patch note breakdown time for update 9.0, and it is split into two parts. The first part, we will cover all of the patch notes that they have publicly released, and then part two will be the unofficial patch notes, where we're going to be diving into things like the multipliers. What are the different code changes have happened in the background that might affect your gameplay? Okay, so let's get into the official raid patch notes here. There is a lot of content on siege mode here. It is very deep, very complicated. I did cover it in my previous video briefly in a very simplistic way. I'm still trying to figure out how I can structure it, how the best way to manage it for our clan is going to be. And from a HH gaming point of view, we are looking at some sort of tool that we can somehow automate some of the collection of information and your clan organization as best we can, because it is a lot to try and collect from clans on a regular basis, and we do need to have a bit of a clan strategy planning going on to be able to be successful in this game mode. So I won't go into much detail, as I mentioned. I really want to come to the bottom here where it's got the improvements and bug fixes. I always like to look at this section more than anything else because it has lots of different things going on that is very important for the game. So let's see then. We got fixed a bug that caused poison cloud buffs to be affected by increased buff duration. We already knew that they're going to be stopping the new Void Legendary Incenser for being able to place poison cloud and then extend them permanently. We knew that was coming. Now it's going to reduce its duration as normal. They fixed a bug with Ferg and Isabel's passive, so now it will activate if an enemy died from a bomb and detonate by her shot skill. I guess that's just a weird champion bug. Same with here, fixed a bug that caused champions wearing the Guardian set to absorb 10% of damage to allies received from poison and HP burn. Debuffs are always normally immune from all sorts of effects. If you take damage from debuffs like poisons and burns, they shouldn't be protected by any sort of passives or skills, or in this case, an artifact set. They always keep themselves excluded from any multipliers and blessings, and it works both ways. You can't make them do more damage unless you use like poison sensitivity, but likewise, they shouldn't be reduced either. Fixed a bug that caused battles against the Shogun to end with an error with Sky Touched. Okay, we've got some visual bugs, clan insignia, visual bug, fixed a bug caused for scrolling issues, fine. Fixed a bug that caused clan chat, fixed incorrect number formats and roundings in the shop, cool. And then we're going to get to a sensitive one here, which I am going to talk about a little bit in the unofficial patch notes. Fixed a bug that caused additional damage dealt by Slayer artifact set to be capped at 10% of the enemy's max HP, even if the wearer skill did not deal damage based on enemy max HP. I can tell you right now it's not fixed. And there are other minor bug fixes, and there's quite a few different issues here that we need to get through. So let's take a look at the unofficial patch notes. For once, there are things that are not in this checklist that are really important to note. So let me start with a disclaimer. Unofficial patch notes. What does that mean? This is information that exists in your client. Things that you see in the game all the time that you don't see when you actually play the game. Things like multipliers, things like different modifiers and all these different bonuses, skill descriptions and all that you do see are existing in here. But what it allows me to do is gain an insight into how something is coded and working in a specific way. And then I bring this here to basically explain to you, this is how something works. These are the multipliers of these champions. These are how good these champions are. It gives you context to what you see in the game, but not every detail is in the game. Sometimes as well, it gives me insights into things that they have changed that they have not told you about, and that is what I include here. But just to note, this is unofficial. These are not official notes from Plarium. These are things that I have gleaned from information and my understanding of the game. So first things first, Slayer set. What is going on? We are here again. Slayer set. This is going to be like Fortis 2.0. This is Slayer set is not fixed. Currently, right now, my Marius the Gallant is doing around about anywhere from 35 to 65% less damage on his max HP and his non-max HP. I've tested it with Garrel. I've had other people give me information and testing it. The Slayer set is not doing 10% right now. It seems to be affected by the enemy Hydra AoE passive, but it also is affected in places like Shogun Grove where there shouldn't be any damage reduction. I do not know the exact answer yet. I'm still trying to do some math testing when I have time to basically break down where these numbers are coming from. But I can tell you for a fact that the effect of 9 out of 9 Slayer, it is meant to repeat the damage of your AoE attack. 30% of the time, it repeats the AoE damage. What that means is it's meant to ignore all defense on the repeat attack. It's meant to take 100% of the damage that was dealt, and it is meant to be fixed. So you can't remultiply it. It doesn't get bonuses from things like weaken. It won't increase in damage. It should repeat the exact same damage. And at this point, I would like to recommend that maybe they take a look at Akimtum's passive, because that seems to be working fine. Similar effect, take 100% of the poison damage and put it on all hex targets. We just need to collect the final damage. Whatever they've done, they've made it extremely over-engineered, and it is just not working. It is not doing anywhere near what it's meant to do, which is 100% of my AoE damage, 30% of the time it's meant to repeat. Slayer set is not fixed. It is bugged. Is it bugged to the point you shouldn't use it? No. It's still pretty good, right? You don't lose anything from having it. You gain the turn meter, you gain the AoE ignore defense. So champions like Marius, where you get full AoE, it's probably still worth using, but it isn't doing what it says on the tin currently. Just a note here as well, it has been confirmed by Plarium. Siege is a new game location, which means that only all battles will work. Clan Boss is a location, Arena is a location. We have things like Cintranos location and Doom Tower. They're all separate game locations, which means only the all battle auras or those that are specifically coded to work in those areas work. I wonder if we might see Siege get added to Arena auras, or maybe there will be Siege-specific auras. Right now, only all battle works there. And there does seem to be plans for new Siege layouts. They have mentioned that they want to scope and increase it. So probably the configuration of the Siege at some point will change in its life cycle. Now let's get to some general champion changes, some things that weren't mentioned in the patch notes. So firstly, good news, all block revive champions will now work on weak hits. Whether you weak hit or not, if you place block revive, the block revive will place. It activates on any form of weak hit. And also, polymorph can't trigger if you place block revive. Used to be like, it was a weird bug where if you placed block revive, then because it's technically coded as a debuff, it will trigger polymorph. The reason why it's coded as a debuff, just so everyone knows, is that effectively for you to place the block revive, the game has to have a debuff on the target that prohibits that target from being revived. So the way that it makes the block revive work is it places a debuff, and that debuff says to any reviver, you can't revive this target. It blocks it, a bit like block buffs. So it has to go on first. So it applies a debuff, then it kills them. You don't see it half the time because it happens instantly. But with polymorph, because obviously it worked on any kind of debuff application, it would go, you try to place block revive, you fail, you trigger polymorph, and therefore you don't get the block revive. It's quite frustrating, but they fixed it. It's no longer going to happen. They did do a little change with Lissandra's A1. It's now checking for CC. I don't really know why, because obviously if you were stunned, you couldn't transfer debuffs anyway, so I don't really know why they did that. But hey, small note, if you notice anything with Lissandra, let me know. And then another big change that they've made with Hegemon, which I feel like could be potentially very impactful with the way players use Hegemon, is they've kind of coded his passive differently. The old way, the way that it used to work, is it effectively gave him an unimaginable amount of turn meter, like 3,000 turn meter fill. It effectively would give him a tick and instantly give him instant amounts of turn meter, which meant that when you were in battle, you saw everyone's turn meter bars move once, then he got a turn, which gave you insights into how fast enemy champions were and how fast your champions were. You can kind of make an assessment of who is fast on the team. Well, they've now changed it to be a coded effect that essentially gives first turn. That is what it's coded at, and I'm just going to show you an image of what it looks like now in game. So this is the difference now with the image. You'll notice that nobody has any turn meter, so you can't actually tell anymore if Arbiter's faster than Kaima, which you could be able to before. And the reason why this is important, many people would use Hegemon to A1 with Evil Eye to be able to cut in. That was the way that it used to work. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. You're going to have to guess. So I don't know. I don't have Hegemon. I'm not an experienced player. Maybe Hegemon players, you can leave a comment and let me know how impactful this is. If it's significantly impactful, I will do a bit more of a push on it, but I can't imagine they're going to fix this now based on the way it's coded. Technically, it's the correct way of coding it, but I can see how it's going to disadvantage you if you were effectively using it as a preview to see who was fastest. You can't do that anymore. It's instantly going to give you a turn. There is no tick. There's no like fill of a turn meter that happens anymore. So the only rebalance that really affected damage was Jingwong. He is now a bit of a nightmare to face in Cintranos. He is actually quite good these days. They've double buffed him. This is a second attempt at this. He is a pretty good champion. He gives you a lot of control, a lot of buff removal, a lot of active skills blocking. I definitely recommend you take a look at him if you have him in your vault. He's probably worth considering as a good wave controller if this the right Cintranos wave or the right setup sort of came along. He's always been pretty good at countering Kaimar. He's even better now with all the control that he gives you. He's kind of like a really budget Galathir without a revive. That's the way I would describe him, kind of a budget Galathir without a revive. But there was a slight multiplier change because his A2 became AoE, so they reduced his damage. Don't expect any damage to come out of him. He's not going to be able to do a lot of damage here. He's still a very weak damage dealer. He's a control, a passive block, sort of stun control kind of champion. He will serve you quite well. Very good in Dragon as well for transferring debuffs, but he will not actually do any damage. Let's get on to some new champions then. We've got Diamant Copper Coin. He is an attack-based champion here. He is kind of a support more than a damage dealer. You can see this by having a low attack. Anything below 1400 attack is not going to do a lot of damage. Pretty good base multipliers at 3 and 4 though. They're not bad. But again, like his damage is going to be average at best. He's in the team for the support elements of his kit in terms of like the turn meter control. His A2 turn meter control is quite nuts. It's very strong. But he's not in here for damage at all. Then we come to the champion that you are probably interested in a lot, which is the bomb champion, Komidus Darksmile. If you've pulled him or you might pull him, you'll be curious to know what are his bomb multipliers. First HP based bomb champion. Surely they're going to get it right. Unfortunately, they did not. So let's go through it now and explain why it is not good. So on his base form, he's much more of a wave control champion. He's got block active skills. He does a lot of different control effects. He is HP based damage, but the multipliers here are tragic for a mythical champion. You'd be looking at something like a 0.3 minimum for some damage. It's just nowhere near good enough at 0.22. You can see it's not any good. His A3 is not bad. It's okay damage. But what he will give you is a lot of control. But it's not what you want to see from a mythical champion. These numbers here are quite low. Then we come to his ult. He gets a little bit more HP on his base stat. And his ult form is where he basically has all of his bombs, right? This is where it becomes interesting. A lot of people might be thinking, right, he's going to be really good. Unfortunately, his bomb multipliers are just undercooked. They are massively undercooked. Again, 0.12 and a 0.25 of base damage. The base damage alone is really poor. Like I'd be looking for a 0.3 minimum for a HP based champion. If you think, for example, Vesulf is 0.25 twice. If we look at Magnar, he's like a 0.22 twice. You know, they're 0.44. That's the type of damage you really want to see if you want them to do a lot of damage. They don't do damage here. And the reason why these bombs will not do any damage, I've got a graph to kind of compare it to Gaius, like a legendary that everyone got. A very good example to use. A lot of people use him in Arena. I'll compare him to Gaius and you'll see why his bombs are just not good. But his bombs, to confirm, are 0.15 on the A1 and 0.33 on the A2. Now his passive, it doesn't specifically state a multiplier. So I'm going to assume that when he reflects the bomb back, it is the exact same multiplier as the bomb that is come back from the enemy. So it should, in theory, and I say should in theory because I don't have him, I don't have test server, it should be the bomb with the stat that the opponent tried to place. So if it's an attack bomb, it should use the enemy's attack. It should work like Stultus's Reflect, where it uses the enemy stats to determine what the debuff accuracy and all that different things are placed. So 0.15 and 0.33. Let's just take a look at his skill damage first, and you will see that, you know, it's just not that strong for Mythical. Like, you're not going to see his on-hit damage do much of anything on these abilities here. And just to confirm what I was saying about the bombs, we've got Gaius at the top here with a 5 times attack. I've given him a 7,000 attack, which, to be honest, if you push it really extreme, you can get to like an 8,000 attack really comfortably these days. A 7,051 attack. You can buff attack-based champions, so you can give them a 50% buff. Then that means there's a base of a bomb of 52,000, and we can also put weaken on there. The formula that I've determined these base stats is the same equation. It is the equation that I use to generate damage ratings. So that means that the amount of base stat each champion has, I've scaled it linearly according to their base stat. I haven't like assumed that Gaius has a less or more base stat or anything like that. This is scaled off their base stats. This is what an average number should be based on like a good late to end game build. And you can see on the A1, he's about 70% weaker than a Gaius bomb at 5 times attack, and Komidus is 34% on the A2. So his best bomb is 35% weaker. It is not going to cut it as an arena bomb champion. But that being said, if you did get Komidus and you're feeling pretty depressed right now, he could be a very strong carry because he's very tanky. You don't need as much like squishiness because you don't need attack. You can scale him based off HP. So he might be very good at soloing content, going through content. Is that what you want from a mythical champion? I would say no. But that would be the only sort of saving grace, the silver lining, is because it is based on health, he can survive and he does heal a lot, which means that it will give you a lot of sort of anecdotal damage that Gaius wouldn't be able to do, right? Gaius would die very quickly because you have to build attack. You can build health, you can build defense, you can stay alive. Might be a better way. Let's get on to one of the most broken champions I've ever had the pleasure of doing a damage rating assessment on, Legate Teox, the new Lizard faction Unity guy. This is the most broken damage set I've seen in a very long time. Very strong base attack at 1520. The base speed doesn't matter because effectively he gets 5% turn meter whenever an ally or an enemy ever receives a debuff, which is not locked once per turn like Androck. It is all the time. So you place 4 debuffs, he gets 20% turn meter. Boom, boom, constantly. You put Supersonic as a 4-piece on him, he could be flying, absolutely flying the amount of turn meter he gives himself. Really, really crazy. You definitely want to have Ignore Defense. Supersonic, you probably need 6 pieces, so it's not as good, unfortunately. You can't get a 6 and a 4 yet. That's not quite possible. We don't have a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Any Diablo player knows what I'm talking about. But that is potentially, if you could, it would be nuts for the amount of turn meter he gains. Now we have an A1, which is 2 times attack times 2. A 4 times A1 is very high. Very high. 4 times is the standard for AoE damage on a cooldown. Around about 6 times is a standard for an sort of a cooldownable single target. Most A1s are around about 3 times, so it's very, very high damage. The A2 is on a triple hit single target at 2.1, so it becomes a 6.3. Again, I said the average is about 6, it's above average. And then we have the A3, which is a 4 times attack, but it has that chance, as long as there's a debuff, which is almost impossible not to have, to repeat the attack. So what you basically have is an 8 times attack A3. Then you apply his faction unity bonus, which means as long as there is 5 debuffs out on the enemy, he gains 20% more per debuff per target. So as long as you have 5 debuffs on a single target, he's going to deal 100% more damage, which means effectively it's a 16 times AoE multiplier. It is very, 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 very strong. Probably the highest multiplier for an AoE attack-based damage dealer in the entire game. It is incredibly strong. So where does that put him in terms of damage ratings? Well, number 1, basically is the best way to put this. His A1 is not the strongest. There are stronger A1s in the game, but it's pretty good, like Clan Boss number 19. Arena, he's at 65. I know a lot of people have asked me, where is the full list of this? It is coming. There's a website tier list in development. Hopefully it shouldn't take me too much more time. If I have to spend any more time trying to fix Slayer, it will take me more time. So I probably should prioritize the tier list rather than Slayer at this point. 65, 47, 49, 65. You see a very good spread of damage here. This is where it gets crazy then. A2, number 5 in the arena. Number 10 in Clan Boss. Number 8 in Hydra. And then his A3, the only reason why he loses in Hydra is because it's AoE. So he takes the penalty of Hydra AoE. Otherwise, he'd be number 1 in Hydra. That's the only reason. He is beating people like Newt in Clan Boss. He's beating like people like Acrizia. He is matching the craziest damage ever. He is obnoxiously strong in that A3. If you scale this A3, it will be the hardest hit you will find in the game right now. He's the new king of damage. Anyone who's got Legate Teox, congratulations. Have a lot of fun with him. He's quite easy to put some lizards with as well. Like if you go Arena, you can go like Romantu with Pythian. You've got 2 already. If you go sort of Hydra, you can go Necmo, Krisk. There's your 2 already. Like it's not difficult at all. Like there's pretty powerful legendaries now in that faction that you can do it with, and a lot of them are fusions or free champions, right? Necmo is a guaranteed. Pythian was a fusion. Romantu is a free one that you get once you finally get tag team. I know it's not free, but you know what I mean. It's pretty easy to build these teams. Then we have the new Siege champion here, Authorratrix Lamasu. You'll get this champion in about 2.5 years, probably. The most players, maybe about a year. If you're really, really bad at PvP, probably about 40 years. So, you know, there's not much point me covering it, but got to complete the system, got to complete the loop. So Authorratrix Lamasu, really, really good champion, really good for that A3 intercept. The A2 is great for Hydra, all around probably a really solid champion, but not a damage dealer, right? We have one single attack that's going to attack an enemy. It's a defense base, so it is easy to keep alive. Really good base speed, 2.7 times attack, not a damage dealer. So we don't really have to worry about the damage ratings here. If anyone wants to know how these damage ratings are calculated, there is an article on the website that goes into the detail, the equations and the situations and the scenarios that we take into account when we're building these damage ratings. They're essentially generated in a realistic battle scenario, taking into account all of the hero's passives, ignore defense components. We give them savage and cruel sets. We give them 30% ignore defense. We don't factor in things like Helm Smasher, area bonuses. These are quite linear, but it could have quite a significant impact as well. That's why these numbers here, you might be thinking, well, this is not what I hit in the game, because it's a simulation. We're assessing everyone linearly so we can compare them like for like based on scaling off their base stats and various different things. So it gives me an understanding that, you know, if I had area bonuses for that area, well, the heroes would, the champions would be ranked in the similar order. They'll just do more damage. That's the way I look at it. But you can read the full article. It's on the website. I'll make sure I put it in the pinned comment as well. And I just want to say that something is coming this week that a lot of people have been excited about for a very long time, have asked for. It is coming. I'm not a spoilers person. I don't do leaks. That is Mr. Hell Hades' role. But just keep your eyes peeled to Hell Hades' channel because something is coming this week. But there you go, guys. That is update 9.0. We will have more specific Siege content videos coming out that I can cover in more detail as to how all the different mechanics work. And as I said, we're trying to find tools and different things to help clans figure out how best to coordinate their sieges. So keep your eyes peeled. But thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments below anything that you've spotted in this update that you don't know what's going on. I'm always happy to reply and add comments and help people understand the game better. That is why we do these patch notes, and I really try to make sure I remember to do them every update. Sometimes I forget some, but I'm trying to make sure I get them out every single time. And as always, if this is the first time you have come to this channel, make sure you do the usual things you should do in a YouTube if you've enjoyed this content. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up to say, hey, you did a good job. I do use these metrics to assess whether or not I'm hitting the right mark, which we didn't do with the Wixwell video. And that is why the thumbs up and the thumbs down is important, because that helped me understand not to do that again. So make sure you do that, and I will catch you guys in the next video.